All right, let's see if we can pop in. You are going to be chatting with Karen Brodkin, EVP Content Strategy Development, Endeavor, co-head of WME Sports. Karen, I needed to take a break. We're also bringing Hillary Mandel, EVP, Head of Americas and Global Partnerships at IMG. And here she pops in. Nobody needs to see me any more of me. Good popping, Hillary. Thank you, ladies, for being with us. I turn you over to Bonnie.
Hi, Scott.
There's Hillary. Thank you, Scott. Hey, ladies, thank you for joining me. And thanks to everyone who's been kind enough to be a part of the Sportico Women in Sports event. It's been amazing. There have been so many speakers that have just like blown my mind, from Chelsea Clinton to Danny Garcia. We had Laura Froelich yesterday, Marie Donahue, who oversees sports at Amazon, and Laura oversees Twitter partnerships. And we've heard so many amazing insights, specifically about the growth and the impact of women in our industry, but also their incredible insights about the industry as a whole. And those are two things that I want to touch on with you ladies today. Karen, for those of you who may not know, oversees content and development for Endeavor, which just went public, so I'm sure everybody's happy over there. And Hillary is one of the folks running IMG's partnerships and has done an amazing job. When we were doing our prep call yesterday, we were trying to figure out a couple of specific things to focus on that would really key on your experience and your growth in certain areas. I feel like one of the areas where women struggle the most, and it's actually not a gender-specific challenge, it's just a challenge period, is how to become a deft and impactful negotiator. You guys are negotiating your own deals, but you're also negotiating a whole stockpile of deals, from rights to talent agreements to working with networks to just working with streaming platforms. It truly runs the gamut. So Karen, let's start with you, the legal eagle. As you have evolved as a negotiator, how have you done that? And what are some of the most impactful techniques? And Hillary, you guys work so closely together. I can just like press the go button and you guys can feed off each other.
Thanks, Bonnie. So what I'd say is, since I left the legal behind about 7 years ago, what I was like as a negotiator as a lawyer, and what I do now running basically, our sports business for WME and also on the media side, it required an adjustment, right? It required a larger lens. It required a larger sort of business strategy, kind of to see sort of the business picture around the deal in very different ways, oftentimes, than the lawyer on the deal. So that required my own personal adjustment. What I would say is sort of my North Star in negotiating is, and I think Hillary and I really do this effectively together. We're tough and we're aggressive, and we have very ambitious goals on behalf of our clients, but we don't buy into scorched earth, right? I think this is a marathon, not a sprint. You're often going to be at the table with the people on the other side many, many, many times. More true for us probably than most, because we are negotiating with media companies, big, small, global, every single day. So winning on one deal can result in losing on another. So I think you have to constantly keep the big picture in mind. I just say as an anecdote, I used to be on the buy side for almost 16 years when I was at Fox Sports. I've moved over to the sell side now, representing clients. I've been so pleasantly surprised and pleased that a number of our clients are people that I negotiated and properties that I negotiated against when I was at Fox. And I think the way that I handled the negotiations then, with transparency and honesty and integrity and fairness, and feeling like everyone had to push back from the table and feel like they got something and felt good about the deal, I think is reflected in the fact that now they want Hillary and myself to be alongside the table with them. And I think if there were scorched earth and bad feelings and felt like you were taken advantage of, I don't think we'd be sitting next to them. I don't think I would be sitting next to them, that's for sure. So that's kind of been my guiding post throughout my entire career, both when I was a lawyer, then when I moved into business affairs at Fox Sports, and now sort of as the co-head of our sports business and sitting alongside Hillary on the media side.
Well, Hillary, I want to key on that, because I think a critical point in any negotiation, and it always happens, because there are all sorts of tactics that people use, but it gets to the point where the deal's about to blow up. And you're one of the people sitting at the table that's like, shit, this can't happen. Can you share an anecdote? Can you share insight as to your techniques where you need to stand firm, but you also realize that you don't want the deal to blow up, and what, quite frankly, has worked for you?
Thanks, Bonnie. And let me come back because I have another great anecdote to key off of what Karen just said about why it's so authentic to when you're on either side. I mean, the fact that Karen and I are together, we met across the table, so to speak. And to her point, the fact that it probably is the highlight of my not that short career that we've now had a 6.5 year spend together as partners as a result of exactly what she is saying about style and how important that is in moving forward and leaving meat on the bone so that each side has something to take away, that you haven't scorched the earth or killed somebody on the other side. Well, I guess by truth, rule number 101 is you better be ready to walk away from that table and let a deal blow up if you really want to get the best deal, which goes back to why for understanding a marketplace and understanding who all the alternatives and competitors might be is so critical, so you don't necessarily find yourself in that 23.9% of the hour of a deal blowing up. But of course what you're saying is correct. What have we done? I don't want to name names, but I'll say this, technique wise, and I think it's advice and maybe just advice that we carry ourselves. I think it does come back to two pieces: listening and negotiate and relationship, because that's really what Karen's talking about. It's really understanding that the client relationship goes without saying, right? That's your client for whom you understand their business inside and out. But you better, it's important to understand your partner's business inside and out and be a good listener and understand what their challenges are on their side to get over, the hurdle and make a deal. So in this case, I can think that what I have had to lean on, and I'm sure Karen has done the same, is to take the breath, to step away and lean into those relationships offline, to be able to take apart what the problem is, de-escalate, and build on the fact that, goes back to the first part. We're not trying to, no one's trying to kill the other person. It's really, we're solution finders, right? We're trying to find a way to bring two people together. And I think that comes back to understanding, good listening, and relationships.
Yeah, I just want to say one thing, Bonnie. First of all, as between the two of us, when things are blowing up, Hillary is way calmer than I am. She usually has to talk me out of
partnership. That's called partnership,
right? Starting to put pins in my eyes. She's very calm, but you cannot underestimate the value of the relationship at that time. I mean, just some of the women that you mentioned, these are women, Marie Donahue, Amy Brooks, that we grew up in the business with, and men too. And you're going to lean heavily. And in that moment of potential implosion, years of relationship really, really help. So if you're developing a relationship in the moment that things are getting bad, that is not going to end well. But it's one of the reasons why I think you really want to work with people with deep relationships in this business, because deal making is not easy and it's not getting any easier. For sure.
I'm going to throw a word out that I don't think 3 years ago, 5 years ago, certainly not 10 years ago, I would have ever brought into a negotiating room. Empathy. Is there a place for it, and where is it?
Well,
Hill, you want to go first this time?
I'll give you that first, Carol. We'll see what you say. I think that empathy, Bonnie, is connected a bit to listening, right? To hearing what somebody is saying, what's really there, right? And having an understanding, because understanding and empathy for me go together. If the answer is from an empathetic standpoint, understanding what the challenge are, what are the headwinds in our business right now, and what are the partners on both sides facing, hugely important. Just like I think it's becoming important in corporate culture and recognizing that it's complex. we're multi-leveled in many ways, and it's a rich tapestry and not just a one-issue situation. So I think the answer is it is absolutely here and present, and people who are empathetic, like the two of us, I think that's an edge for us in really understanding what's happening here and taking it apart to be able to put it back together again.
For sure.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add to what Hillary said is I think empathy is an emotion that you can have on a personal level. So to the extent that we know the people on the other side of the table personally, and we might know what's going on in their world professionally, personally, and we bring that into the room with us, that is true. I would say rather than empathy, what I'd like to think you see more of and what we bring more of is integrity, right? Having the integrity to listen, understand their business, understand our needs, and work with that kind of North Star.
Yeah, for sure. And that also plays into leadership and how I think the narrative around what a good leader looks like is starting to shift. And I have a lot of discussions with women who aren't quite sure where that fits when you're laying out leadership characteristics, because we know as good leaders and women who are very successful at the leadership level, they can be tough, diplomacy, all of these things that I think, stereotypically we may associate with men. We're talking about that now, plus empathy, compassion, understanding, integrity. When a woman is trying to find her place in a corporate culture as a leader, if you were advising her, how would you do that?
Well, what I would say is, listen, corporations have cultures, and you need to appreciate and understand the culture of the company that you're coming into. And I think it's challenging to move corporate culture as one person. I think you have to be true to yourself. You have to be authentic. You have to be realistic. I mean, and Hillary and I are at Endeavor. She's come from the ING side. I'm spend most of my time in the corporate side of Endeavor and WME. There are different corporate cultures there that are kind of melding together. But I have my own personal way of leading, and that's how I lead my team. But with an eye towards what's the corporate culture around you? You have choices. Everyone has a choice about where they go to work. So I think it's marrying the reality of the company that you're going to and what's going to personally lead you. And if you can meld them, it's going to be very successful. I mean, we both work in a company that's led by senior men, and neither of us are where we are if we are not championed by those male leaders. I know
Karen,
I'm nowhere
I see,
that I am today without that.
I see Lindsay is shaking her head, I believe, in agreement. So we do have to leave it there. But I will say, Hillary, I do love the fact that your instinctual prologue was, you better. And that was my takeaway. You can negotiate my deal any day of the week, Hillary. I like that, starting with you better.
That's an important tool, being able to stop yourself and redirect. You better.
And she gave you this.
She gave me a little of you better. Exactly. Well, Bonnie, Hillary, Karen, thank you so much.